We got this. We good. Let's do this again. Wah, wah, wah. Welcome back to another episode of Robuilt. I'm your host, Rob. Today, we're going to be, I don't know. Let me check my outline real fast. Huh. Yeah. All right. So you want to get into the Airbnb business.
Well, too bad! It's too late!
Oh my God, Susan, I kid! There are so many ways that you can break into the Airbnb business, and today I'm going to give you 5 Airbnb / short-term rental business models that you can get into. We're going to be talking about the pros, the cons, and the costs associated with each model. All in this video, which is actually the second installment of my Airbnb series that's going to be going on all this month. By the way, in case you're wondering, it's currently 1:54 p.m. New milestone. I'm recording during the day and I'm feeling mighty fine, people. So with that, let's talk about the top 5 Airbnb business models. And of course, I've compiled it in this cutie little PDF right here that you can download in the description below. And of course, as always, if this inspires you to become an Airbnb host, be sure to sign up with my link down below so that you get $75 when you host your first stay. So first one here is going to be renting your house. This is probably the most common form of Airbnb, probably what you've heard about. But effectively, you can buy a house and turn it into an entire Airbnb business as little as 30 days after you close. Usually after I close, I try to get my Airbnbs running within the next week or two just because time is money and every day that you're not renting your Airbnb is another day that you're not making money. There are a few different ways and loan types that you can pursue whenever you're thinking about buying an Airbnb property, and I'm going to talk about the different loan types. Not a mortgage broker, don't legally hold me to anything. Contact your mortgage broker because they're way more qualified than me. Depending on which loan type you go with, you can put down anywhere from 3.5% to 20%. And this will vary depending on if you go with an FHA loan, a conventional loan, a second home / vacation home, or an investment property. They all have their own nuances and specific lending criteria, so definitely get with your mortgage broker for some of the more nitty-gritty details. For example, on an FHA loan, you can put down 3.5%. However, that has to be your primary home that you live in. So if you're going to pursue that option, that would really only work for a house hack, which we'll get into the next model here, or if you were renting it for a weekend while you were out of town or something like that. Then you can go the second home / vacation home route if you want, and that would require a 10% down payment. Now, a lot of the times people might have a second home that's just collecting dust 10 months out of the year, or they only get to use it for 2 months. Or you might be itching to buy a vacation home in the Smoky Mountains or in Joshua Tree or in Big Bear or in Mammoth or Scottsdale, or insert whatever city that you love to travel to and you want to own a home there, but you can't really quite justify a monthly mortgage on it because you're not there enough. In those instances, you might consider a vacation home because you can use Airbnb to not only subsidize your mortgage, but actually make money doing it too. And then you can go full on investment loan, and that can cost you anywhere from 15 to 20% down. I've even seen it up to 25% down. Now, to put some numbers to this, if you were going to acquire a $300,000 house, that would cost you anywhere from $10,500 to $60,000, and that would be dependent on if your down payment was anywhere from 3.5% to 20%. On a $400,000 house, you'd be looking at a down payment between $14,000 and $80,000. And on a $500,000 house, you'd be looking at anywhere from $17,500 all the way up to $100,000 as a down payment. What I like about this is that there's a loan type for pretty much anyone who has some cash saved up with a pretty low debt to income ratio. But regardless, make sure that you talk to your mortgage broker and that you're adhering to their guidelines. So second business model. My microphone on. Whoo! Oh, I've recorded without my microphone being on way too many times. And it's on. If you're hearing me talk right now, it's on. Second Airbnb business model type is a house hack, and this is one of my favorites, mostly because I feel that my first house hack was the catalyst for all of my financial success. So let's back up a bit. What is a house hack? A house hack is basically when you own a home and you rent out a part of that house. It could be a guest bedroom, it could be both of your guest bedrooms, a den, a bonus space. I've even seen someone rent out a Tesla in their garage, but you rent out these spaces to help subsidize your mortgage. So to put this very simply, let's say that you own a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house and your mortgage is $1,000. And I'm just going off the first house that I ever owned, which was $159,000. Well, you would live in one room and you could rent out the other 2 rooms for, say, $400 a piece. 400 times 2 is $800. Yeah, it's $800. Yeah, it's $800. That would be $800 that you could apply to your mortgage, meaning you'd be out of pocket $200 to own your house. Now, these numbers that I'm throwing out are in reference to a long-term rental if you were renting it out to an actual tenant or a roommate, which was what I was doing when I first started out. This was before I ever knew about Airbnb, so let's run another simulation here. Let's say that you really wanted to supercharge the house hack model. Well, if you wanted to, you could then list both of those rooms on Airbnb. Let's say you wanted to start small and list one of those rooms on Airbnb at $50 a night. If you rented that room for $50 a day and you were able to book it for all 30 nights in the month, that would be $1,500 that you made on one room. That's right, not only would you pay your $1,000 mortgage, but you would make $500 doing this. Now let's say you got all brave and you wanted to rent the other room and you were able to book that for the entire month. That's another $1,500. So $3,000 total, $1,000 mortgage, you would be making $2,000 in a perfect month. But Rob, no one ever has perfect months. You're just inflating the numbers. Blah. Yeah, I get it. I'm just giving you the best case scenario. I know plenty of hosts, and I mean plenty of hosts that have done this, who have perfect months all the time. I've had so many perfect months in my Airbnb career. But let's just say that you were able to rent both rooms at an occupancy of 60%. We would multiply the perfect scenario, $3,000 times 0.6, and that's $1,800, which is perfectly reasonable. So even with the relatively lower occupancy rate, you can still pay your mortgage and make $800, and then you gotta account for your expenses like toilet paper, paper towels, extra utilities, that kind of stuff. And honestly, what I like the most about house hacking is that I think anybody can do it. So many people come to me and ask me and they say, Rob, I wanna get into real estate, but I don't have any money, I can't buy a house. And then I say, well, do you own a house? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, house hack. I mean, duh. This is what I recommend to anyone that owns a house that may not have enough money or borrowing power to acquire a new home. You can get creative with this. You can put an RV on your driveway. You can convert a garage into a studio space, or you can do what I did and build like a tiny house or a guest suite or some kind of guest house in your backyard. There are so many ways that you can get into a house hack, and because it's your primary residence, you could get in for as little as 3.5% down. I have seen a lot of people that have gone out and bought duplexes, Airbnb that duplex, paid off their mortgage, and made thousands of dollars that same month. Even in my personal house hack, when I was living in LA, I had a studio apartment under my house, which was renting for $1,500 a month. I had my tiny house in my backyard, which can average out to about $2,500 a month. So that right there is $4,000. My mortgage is $4,200. So for $200 out of pocket, I almost get to live in my $1.2 million Los Angeles home for free. And since I started house hacking that house, I've made between $160,000 to $180,000 in rents. House hacking is already very powerful, but when you plus it up with Airbnb, the sky's the limit. Airbnb business model number 3, glamping. Also known as glamorous camping, which basically means that it's an elevated camping experience. So instead of freezing out in Mother Nature in a thin vinyl tent, or digging a hole in the ground and pooping in it, and then covering it back up, you get to rent a very luxurious or premium canvas tent, or vintage Airstream, or tiny house on wheels, or A-frame or yurt, and you get to rough it in Mother Nature on memory foam mattresses, and you get a mini fridge, and maybe solar panels to charge your precious phones. You can set up these experiences for people, and guess what? You can charge anywhere from $150 to $400 a night. In fact, this tent grossed $5,360.73. As you can see, I had a pretty booked July. Our profit margin on this is usually 65%. So on this property, our profit last month would have been $3,484. There are so many fun, cool ways that you can curate and put together this experience for people. And it's not just me. There are so many people killing it with this business model, like my student right here, who made $10,880 in July on a couple of tents as well. I'm just a proud dad over here. There are so many ways that you can launch your Airbnb glamping business. You can acquire land if you want to do that. If you already own a house, you could put an Airstream in your driveway or a tent in your backyard. I've seen people do that and make thousands of dollars that way. Or you might even have a family member that already owns land. You can even lease land from someone and pay them to manage it for you. That's one of my favorite and main business models. The glamping business model, if you're looking to stay scrappy and you want to start small, can cost you anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 to get started. I have a whole glamping series that gets into all this stuff that you can watch after this. Watch this video and then you can go watch that after. But all to say, $10,000 to $20,000 is that starting point. You can spend as much as you want after that. I'm about to spend about $63,000 on 2 dome setups, and I'm gonna charge anywhere from $200 to $350 a night, hoping for an 8-month payback on that. But you don't have to start there. You can start small, I promise. And don't forget, I've compiled these 5 business models in this handy dandy little PDF right here that you can download in the description down below. Number 4 Airbnb business model would be rental arbitrage. This is where you lease an apartment, a home, a townhouse, and then you sublease it on Airbnb. This is actually how I got my start. I rented an apartment, I bought a house, and I didn't want to have to break the lease for that apartment complex. So I just listed that apartment on Airbnb, and I was making a profit of $1,000 to $2,000 a month. And I always say that if I lost it all tomorrow, which I hope I don't, I could always start over with the rental arbitrage business model, specifically because it's a low-cost way to get into Airbnb. I know a lot of people that get into rental arbitrage deals for less than $10,000 because they're usually able to approach apartment complexes that are running specials all the time, like no security deposit or a low security deposit or a free first month's rent. To put this into perspective, with my first arbitrage deal, my rent was $1,850 a month. Now, it was a 600 square foot apartment, and a lot of the utilities were included except for water and electricity, which came out to anywhere from $50 to $150 a month. We'll just say $100 to keep it simple, and then I think my internet was like $50. So roughly speaking, it's been a couple of years, my expenses for for that apartment were generally about $2,100, sometimes a little bit more. Now in a slower / average month, this place was booking for $100 to $150 a night, and the location was amazing, the pool was amazing, had great amenities, so I ran at like a 99% occupancy for the most part. So at $125 on a perfect month, I was bringing in $3,750. Minus my expenses of $2,100, I was bringing in about $1,650 on like a pretty good month. Not my best month, not my worst month. Now I am gonna say that I've had pretty amazing success with my units. I wouldn't necessarily calculate your numbers based on a 100% occupancy. When I'm running the numbers to see if a deal works, I'm typically running my calculations at an 80% occupancy. Now there are a few caveats with this model that I wanna bring up. If you're gonna run with the rental arbitrage model, then you better 100% get the approval and consent of your landlord. Don't try to sneak one by them. Been there, done that.
You son of a bitch.
It is not worth the risk. Do it the right way. The other thing I want to caveat here is that rental arbitrage is great for building monthly cash flow, but you're not necessarily building wealth. In other words, to put it simply, it can get you rich, but not necessarily wealthy. And you're on a 12-month lease. If your landlord decides to sell the building or that they don't want to renew, then your business for that apartment is over. And I want you to keep that in mind. So I think it's totally fine to start off with rental arbitrage, but I would push you to dump your profits into homes that you can acquire, buy, own, and build equity in over time. All right, we did it. Very last one. The very last Airbnb business model that you can get started with is co-hosting. Co-hosting is whenever you help another host or property owner manage their property, meaning you'll have access to their Airbnb listing where you can message guests, set pricing, coordinate with the cleaning crew, restock supplies, and everything else that goes along with running an Airbnb business. And this is a great business model because it requires zero money, no money from you at all. In fact, you get paid to do this. You can charge anywhere from a 15 to 30% management fee of gross monthly revenue. So to put this into perspective, if a place was grossing $5,000 and you were charging just 15% of that, then you would make $750. If you were charging a 30% management fee, then you'd be looking at $1,500 a month. Now I know that may not sound like a lot, but imagine you were able to co-host for 5 people. That would be $7,500 on a perfect month. If you had 10 of these going on a perfect month, you'd be looking at $15,000. And I know that sounds crazy, but I know people that make thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars with this co-hosting model. Fun fact, I used to co-host a mansion in Calabasas a couple years ago. I was charging 25% to do that, and I made thousands of dollars doing that, which at the time was game-changing money for me. And that's it. 5 business models to get started in Airbnb. Honestly, this is what I really love about Airbnb is that I really do think that there's an entry point. There's a way for you to start your business no matter where you are in your financial journey. We're gonna be getting into more Airbnb goodness the rest of this month, so be sure to tune in next week. And don't forget to download this guy, which is a recap of everything that we talked about today. And that's about it. Man, it's 3:52. There's daylight outside. I think I might go for a walk or a bike ride, or I might just go outside and smell the fresh air. But with that, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I post more Airbnb content. You can also follow me on Instagram for daily updates. And I guess I'm on TikTok now, so I don't know. I'm still figuring that one out. But either way, I'll catch you on the next episode of Robuilt.